Are you a precious little bean drawing your animus or your furries or whatever it is that you do, and you're just like, gosh dangle, my stuff just is not as good as other people's stuff. Man, I don't get it. My anatomy is balls. My drawings are an absolute sack of beans. I just don't get it. How do I get better? And then you start watching a bunch of various people's tutorials and it just leaves you in circles. Well, my dear friends, do I have an answer for you. This is my personal method for getting better at anatomy, figure, sketching, posing, all that kind of stuff really, really fast. And as far as I'm aware, this is also like the more professional way to go about it. I have no idea what you're doing, but today we are talking about figure drawing, right? So let's say your goal here is you want to be better at poses and anatomy and all that. This is what this is meant to help you with. It could also help you in other areas, but for the most part, this is going to help you with the aforementioned things. So this is meant to help really anybody in any types of, stylized drawings, but of course I draw mostly anime stuff, and so my stuff is more catered to that kind of audience, but these are still tools that you can use to learn to be able to draw anything really. On top of that, I will be doing like normal figure sketching, and then I will show you how to take that and make it into this anime style, because let's be honest, there's always this constant, at least as far as I've been drawing anime, like this, I don't know, like argument battle over whether or not you need to be able to draw like realism in order to draw good anime. And I'm somewhere in the middle, because I used to constantly argue like, no, you don't need to do that, like look at where I am. But looking back at myself when I was around that time, my anatomy was not good. Like I had, a general idea and it was fine, but certain things were really lacking or just didn't have the real kick that I wanted to, or it's just anatomically wrong, whether or not I liked it. But there's a way to get around that in my honest opinion, I feel is not that hard. I mean, it can be, but you will get there. And it's not one of those situations where maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't. No, you'll get it in your own way and it will work out for you. So what I suggest is referring to real life images and real life things does not hurt. And I know sometimes it just doesn't have that style you're going for. Like if you went outside into your backyard and took a picture of a tree and then you looked at your favorite artist's like drawing of a background, they have these really pretty crazy trees or something, and they just have all these crazy pretty colors, you would think that, oh, there's no way I can get that kind of result out of this boring realistic picture of a tree. The problem is like you're thinking that a reference is going to give you all the components that you want all at once, when in fact, unfortunately, art is a lot of things. So really what that image is, that artist probably has been referencing real trees, real foliage. They've probably also practiced and started with different painting styles, color theory, all kinds of things, and combine them into this one image to create that really pretty tree that you just don't understand how to get to. And you will get there too, but I don't think it's smart to think that you're going to get there all at once. You need to build up these different foundations of things, and then you will find your style and it will be bomb as hell, and you will be super happy and satisfied with it, while also always constantly improving. So do not be afraid to refer to real imagery. That being said, also do not confine yourself to various rules that you've heard are like very strict realism, because obviously various styles, you're kind of breaking the rules. But the thing is of course you need to know the rules to break the rules, you know what I'm saying? So you don't need to follow these to an exact T. Like for instance, those freaking references that are like, oh, average such and such is 8 heads high. Well, if you draw really big heads and really small bodies or something like on purpose, and you execute that well, sometimes it's not going to add up that way. And you don't want to be like kind of shackling yourself to one kind of theory and preventing yourself from experimenting and growing because you're like, oh, well, I can't do that because it's wrong because it's not 8 heads high or whatever stupid thing. So I would say learn those rules, kind of understand them, but don't allow yourself to be kind of anchored down by those rules. For instance, I do not personally follow the whole 8 heads rule. I think it's dumb and annoying. Like, I really hate it. I don't know why that rule in particular really bothers me, but let's get into the meat and cheese. The best way you're going to be better at anatomy and posing and all that is to improve your figure drawing. And what is figure drawing? It is this method or technique, if you will, where you try to draw like usually real people, usually nude models, but you can also find images online. The thing is with figure drawing, you're supposed to be fast. So if you've never heard of figure figure drawing or something, you may be thinking like, oh yeah, it'd probably take me like an hour or two to try to draw like a human figure and get it right, which I am here to tell you, unfortunately, that's an issue. You should be taking 5 to 10 minutes at the utmost. It should not take you that long. And if you're kind of like shook by that, the thing is you are not working on a finished piece. You are not working for accuracy. You are working to understand the general kind of shapes, gestures, etc. So you're trying to be really quick about it. And I don't mean like rush through it and try to get like this perfectly accurate human figure down to a T. Like, no. Typically, figure drawings are not finished images necessarily. You start with the most simplest shapes. Try to get like the general structure. So think, like the skeleton or wireframe thing and the circles and all that hoopla, and then you build on it. You give it more shape, and you're not focusing on what you would otherwise, like, oh, that's a round thigh and a little kneecap or whatever the heck you're doing. No, you're like circles and an oval, and then you come back and you're like, I'm going to refine this, because it's so much easier to look at the whole picture than, little itty bitty details. And most of this process you are learning from like observation and practice. It's not someone sitting there telling you an ear is shaped like this, a knee is shaped like this. It's kind of your own journey. You'll pick up things over time. Like when you're sketching someone, you go, you know what, I'm kind of noticing that most elbows are shaped like this, and you kind of like internalize that fact, but there's not necessarily a teacher standing behind you like, it looks like this, it blank equals blank, which also kind of gives you some more freedom because you're interpreting it your way, if that makes sense. There's no right or wrong way to how you interpret something. And obviously the more you do it, the more you'll pick up on it. Like, oh, you know what? That's not shaped right. And then you'll learn to fix it. A huge thing that I'd also like to point out is you really, really cannot fixate on like one part. You need to treat the whole image equally if you can. An example, you don't want to have a figure drawing where there's like this hyper detailed like ear and it's like fully shaded and looks amazing, but then your like legs are just like 2 lines. You know what I'm saying? They're just like rough sketches and it just doesn't make any sense. Because then more than likely you were really struggling with that ear to get it right, and then you spent too much time on it and you couldn't finish the rest of the image in the allotted time because you were hyper fixated on that part. The point is not to get it accurate. And if you read somewhere that it is, it's not. Figure drawing, you are trying to think of it like a base, like a frame. You're trying to get an understanding. You're not trying to be perfect. And if you hyperfixate or you try to be perfect every single time, you're not gonna have a good time. I promise you. And this is my personal advice. I haven't seen this anywhere. I haven't been told this. I haven't read this. This comes from me, but I think it's pretty important. You need to learn to let go. So for instance, if you drew something and you're like, oh my god, this is wrong, it's not right, I could tell, it looks awful, I hate it. It's not a finished image, right? It's just a sketch, just a practice. You don't have to post it, right? So if you're at the end of your time limit and you're trying to I'm trying to do this in say 1 minute, and your 1 minute's up and you realize something's wrong, just the thing is like you recognize that. That's how you know you've improved. You go, oh crap, that's wrong. And then the next time you go and you sketch or you do a figure drawing or whatever the heck, you recognize that and then you try to adjust. And even if you don't get that on that first time, you might get that on the second time or the third time, and it comes, which is why it's good to keep doing that. So that's my one of the biggest pieces of advice I have for artists, especially if you're just starting out, because you just anchor yourself down so intensely to perfection and all this stuff. And there's some people, it takes them days upon days to do one drawing that looks like it took an hour, and it's really diminishing to people, and I feel like people really get beaten down and upset about that, and that's no fun. Let's be real, that's no fun. You're not gonna want to draw if it's like that. Not at all. So it's really important, not just for learning anatomy and posing and all that hoopla, but also just to have a proper mindset while drawing. Because if you focus like the former and you're all about perfection in certain areas, but you don't understand how to do that in others, you just have an unbalanced mess and it takes you long and you don't enjoy yourself and you don't have fun. Whereas I feel like figure drawing is all about kind of letting go of the restraints, so to speak. So you could experiment and your own comfort and take your time and figure it out, and there's nobody, you know, lashing a whip at you. So then you can find a nice easy place, you know, a middle ground. And then after you learn all that, you can take that and make that experience your own art style. So what I am going to do is go through a couple of figure drawing exercises I found for free online so you guys can get a taste of that, and I will leave links, and then I will show you how to make that your own. So I just simply googled figure drawing exercises, and I've seen lots of websites kind of similar to this, where you choose what kind of thing you want to practice: gender, all, male, female, etc., partially nude, clothes, costumes. I'll just do clothes, costumes for now. Interval of seconds, so I have 60 seconds. I want to draw, let's do 10 images, show images upside down. I just said no, start, and let's see where this takes us. So it's gonna give us some drawing images. All right, think in basic shapes first. I don't know, we got like this weird figure going on here. Might need to shrink that down a little bit. Okay, the arms like that. Okay, so this might not make sense to anyone but me. Now that I got like these basic shapes, I'm coming in with slightly more detailed but still basic shapes. It's got like a weird torso shape, circles, and it's so like weird to describe to other people because it's literally just, you know, just shapes. How much better can you put that? You know, I have the clothes on this to be safe for work, but you know, doesn't necessarily, I'm not like drawing the clothes. All right. And again, nothing's permanent, nothing's set in stone. You know, it's fine if you make mistakes. Just, you know, kind of internalize where you made that mistake and keep that in your back mental pocket. Just keep on going. So, you guys get the gist. Start very simple and you go back in with more detail, go back in with more detail. You can do figure drawings where you do more detail. Like, you don't have to be quite as sketchy and messy as me, because obviously you've probably seen really good figure drawings where they're super detailed. I'm gonna pull over Google and here's some examples. They're much more fleshed, but if you look at this, for instance, this image, it starts out with just these lines and then they come in and solidify it more and more and more, and you just want to practice and be able to get more detail in a shorter amount of time and all of that. Alright, so you might be thinking, okay, how do I make this anime style, right? So I'm going on to Pixar's like daily rankings of popular images and such. Okay, and I'm going to take this one actually. So first what I want to do is tell you guys also, there is seriously no harm in tracing an image if you're just practicing, and I really highly recommend that you do this, especially if you're really struggling. So take an image that you really like and learn to break this down into the basic shapes. So you've got a circle of your head here, and your torso, shoulders, hip. You've got your hands. And you're pretty much kind of like taking whatever the original artist did and breaking it down, trying to figure out where they decided to put things, to kind of learn how to get there yourself, so to speak. And you just keep building upon that. And bam, there's one pose. And then you can also do it on your own now, like you would any other normal figure sketch. And it's kind of a learning process, and you get there. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much what you do. And just keep doing stuff like this over and over again until you feel a little bit more confident. So this one was a little, not the most safe for work looking, but you know, it's still safe for work. So I'm gonna use this one actually, because I kind of like the dimensions here. Okay, so I'm gonna full screen that, turn the opacity down, and we're gonna do the same thing with this one, both these girls. So break down basic shapes. We've got circles, we got think of this torso here. Draw this vertebrae, hips, circles for where the shoulders go. Faces. You just add more and more detail over time. You get rid of that. You have this messy, but still something that you can go in and, you know, sketch more detail on. You know, make it something your own. You guys get what I'm saying? You can just keep practicing. Obviously, if you are using an image to practice with, probably don't want to post that. Do not sell it. Do not claim it as your own. Here's another good pose. Go to my first canvas actually. I'm gonna try 60-second figure drawing with this one like I did with my human sketches. I'm gonna put a timer on my phone, so this is something that anybody can do, even if for some reason you don't have a phone. You can find one online, no problem. So let's go start, and it has begun, and I'm going to do that envelope shape method that I had done before. Going with circle, some shoulders, body, hips. Her hips are a little bit before her torso. Just resting her hands. Head needs a little bit bigger. I'm being extremely loose and extremely sketchy about this. It's not detailed at all. Go in with more details on the hand. This here. Draw this bottle. So I'm beyond the 1 minute part by a couple seconds, but we've got this basic shape. It might not look the best to you, but you know, if you're sketching normally, like you're about to do an image you like, then you can come in with some slightly cleaner, better detail. Now that you have these really sloppy basic shapes down, Just kind of using the original image as like a reference for these shapes. Because obviously this looks different than like those more realistic figure sketches from before, right? We're not going for a super muscular human body type. We're just going for, you know, soft, gentle animu, you know, art style. Get them bobbies in there. If I find something that seems a little bit off, then I can correct it. Cross-legged boys. And that's my quick, you know, version of that. So that's basically the gist you need to get. And doing this over and over again, you will get better over time at where you want things to go and how things are shaped and all that kind of stuff. And it will be bomb as heckaroni. So hopefully this makes sense. Obviously you still can, of course, you know, follow various anime anatomy tutorials and kind of keep them in your back pocket, but I highly suggest various figure sketching to get an idea, like physically, how do things go? And it's totally fine when things are perfect. Please don't try for perfect. And yeah, that is it, my friends. I hope that is helpful. Feel free to talk to me about, you know, your drawing adventures, your journey. If you tried some figure drawings that you'd like to show off or ask advice on, drop below. People in the comments more than welcome to critique or interact with each other. I don't mind. Like, don't be afraid to do that. I can try to jump in and help also. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much. If you do me the absolute honor of subscribing, that'd be awesome. Please check out my Etsy if you have a chance. And also, I have my Patreon now. I just started up for as low as $2 you can support me, and for as much as, I believe it's the $15 tier if you're an artist. I got a bunch of goodies in there for you guys to help you with your art and your adventures, like full-size PSDs with layers, walkthroughs, tutorials, etc. So that will be there. Links and all of that hoopla in the description, such as commissions, my Twitter, Instagram, Etsy, Patreon, all that in the description. So thank you so much. Hope to see you guys again, and goodbye.